Suhao rarely once again found the feeling he had when he was with Old Hao. At this moment he felt relaxed, as if the threatening sensation that had weighed on his mind had disappeared. There would be no more illness, no one or nothing that could harm him. No danger, no worries, he could leisurely wander through books, freely constructing his own private little world without any pressure. This feeling was really fantastic. Just like dropping more than 10,000 in car loans, mortgages, and living expenses each month. Specifically, he could live freely according to his own desires. Suhao sat in the chair in the pinball space, holding a book, slowly flipping through it. It had been a long time since Suhao had dealt with academic subjects. At first, it was difficult for him to immerse himself in the books. Not because he didn't want to read, but due to the long time without contact, many fundamental knowledge and thinking skills had almost been forgotten. So Suhao simply picked up the books he had read before, from the shallow to the deep, rebuilding his own knowledge structure. First, the subject of mathematics, which took roughly 2 months, retrieving everything he had previously abandoned. After picking up the mathematics subject, Suhao found that the sheer volume of knowledge in this single subject was immense. What he had picked up was only a fraction of what he had learned within the mathematics subject in his pinball space. So how long would it take to delve into all the knowledge in mathematics from now on? 10 years, 20 years? This wasn't even certain. Not to mention the vast knowledge systems of physics, chemistry, biology, astronomy, information technology, and so on. If each subject consumed 20 years of his time, it might not even be possible to finish them within his lifetime before his physical body naturally decayed. Suhao couldn't help but sigh in the end. My brain just isn't sufficient. If I were a genius like Einstein, studying and researching these knowledge areas would certainly yield much more, saving a lot of time. Unfortunately, I'm just an ordinary, unremarkable person. Suddenly he thought of something, and Suha's eyes lit up. Wait. Genius. What is genius? Suhao believes it's the manifestation of talent and effort. Some say genius is 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration. He believes he isn't lacking in effort, what he lacks is that 1% of inspiration, which is a legendary talent. But this thing called talent, Suhao doesn't naturally possess it, but he can create it himself. He even created a transcendent talent race, so isn't it difficult for him to create a smart brain for himself? Not difficult, right? Quite reasonable, right? Thinking this, Suhao couldn't help but laugh out loud. I can't compare to those who are born as once in a millennium super geniuses, but I can learn why they are geniuses and then study that. The old saying goes, as long as the mind does not slip, there are always more solutions than difficulties. By getting closer to geniuses, learning the secrets of geniuses, I will also become a genius. Genius genes. Design a set of genius genes for myself, wouldn't that make me a genius too? The more Suhao missed the ability to comprehend, the happier he was about studying mathematics. Suhao planned to upgrade his hardware to enjoy learning math more. Find the new stories on no/el.com. Then Suhao thought about the naturally evolved profit gene from Juhua people. According to this gene, the profit gene had 4 abilities: acquisition, analysis, recording, and simulation. To complete these steps, an extremely powerful brain was required, almost a standard feature for geniuses. If Suhao could acquire these abilities along with the pinball space and little light, he would undoubtedly produce unimaginable effects. Even little light could experience an upgrade because of this. So Suhao decided, let's upgrade my brain first and evolve into a prophet. This was the first time Suhao used himself as an experimental subject for gene modification fluid, and he was actually a bit hesitant. What if he ended up frying his brain? Would he continue wandering in the universe? No, can't rush it, let's try it on someone else first. 2 months later, Suha's experiment was successful. He gained 2 new prophet abilities. Before and after the evolution, there was a significant difference in intelligence. The originally average intelligence Juhua people after Suha's genetic modification exhibited exceptional logical ability, especially in learning and imitation. Not to mention the acquisition analysis and other special abilities. After confirming without error, Suhao decided to proceed with himself. What Suhao didn't know was, for some things there's only 0 or infinite attempts. Once he started the first self-experiment, he couldn't stop. Of course, before experimenting on himself, Suhao had to downgrade those 2 newly evolved prophet abilities and trim off that part of their genes. Suhao was reluctant to let those 2 offenders become intelligent. So after a brief moment of glory in Suha's lab, the 2 wrongdoers Juhua people returned to their original state. Afterward, they seemed to have forgotten many things with only a vague impression that they used to be amazing. And the fact that regression could lead to memory loss caught Suha's attention. After some research, wasn't this a skill for erasing memories? After some time, fully prepared, Suhao injected himself with the filtered gene modification fluid. Can an ordinary person transform into a genius in one go? Suhao slowly drifted into sleep. After who knows how long, Suhao woke up again, feeling his brain was hazy, as if a lot of mercury had been poured into it. Gradually regaining his senses, Suha's initial reaction was failed, didn't I? After a while, as his thoughts became clearer, Suhao immediately noticed something different. No, it's not a failure, it's a success. Just at this time, the reboot of his brain took a bit longer. Activating the prophet abilities completely and adapting to them would probably take a few more days. Am I a genius now? Ha ha ha. Relieved, Suhao happily touched his head. It truly was outstanding. What excited him wasn't just becoming a genius in this lifetime, but knowing that in any future worlds he traversed, he could transform himself into a true genius. The ability to leave behind this kind of genius for future generations was the most terrifying part. If I were a horse, I could create an entire race of geniuses. Up to this point, Suhao confirmed that he had been on the right path. He gradually mastered the knowledge that transformed a weak life into strength, and this knowledge had no end. As he acquired more knowledge, he would become increasingly powerful. Upon reaching a certain level, he would qualify to explore the universe. With the genetic modification just completed, needing some time for adaptation, Su Hao decided to take a proper break to give his brain and body adequate rest. He went to the yard, summoned a small cushion, relaxed his body, and entered a meditative state. This was a habit he developed after becoming Wu Shenwu, which he continued until now. Periodically, he entered a meditative state to strengthen the power of his consciousness, even though the power of consciousness hadn't seemed to improve for a long time. After the meditation ended, his mind clear, he began introspecting, summarizing the past, and investigating the sequence and origin of events. This was Su Hao's spiritual practice. Although the effects seemed minute, Su Hao attached great importance to this kind of practice. He understood that only through constant analysis and introspection could he progress continually. Only by constantly examining his inner self could he avoid going astray. The road ahead was long, and if he started on the wrong path, it would be difficult to correct it later. Su Hao cleared his mind of distractions, focusing solely on this practice. After a while, Su Hao opened his eyes, looking puzzled. As confusion lies in the perception of the power of his consciousness, experiencing subtle growth. It's a rather peculiar sensation, akin to feeling lighter, jetting the burden from his shoulders, or sudden relief from years of ailment. For Su Hao, this manifests as an immense vigor within his body, a more docile nature of the vital energy, requiring less energy to mobilize it. The weighty feeling brought by this massive vitality slightly eases. Though this sensation is subtle, Su Hao indeed perceives it. Su Hao knows that his recent contemplation has led to progress in consciousness. He hasn't experienced this for a long time, and today's sudden progress surprises him greatly but raises more doubts. Why another improvement? Could it be related to the prophet gene? Su Hao couldn't help but furrow his brow. Is the power of consciousness also manipulated by genetics? Upon careful consideration, it is indeed related, but not entirely so. Get your favorite novels at no/v/e/elbing.com. For a moment, Su Hao finds it challenging to grasp the relationship between them. In theory, Su Hao's consciousness essence is actually stored within the pinball space. The strength of his consciousness should not be determined by the Su Hao individual's body, as this body is essentially a vehicle for his thinking. However, having just evolved into a prophet, he feels the growth of consciousness S-power, and Su Hao can be certain that this growth won't vanish if he changes bodies, but will truly affect the growth within the pinball space. So, is the growth of consciousness related to being a prophet? Perhaps there are other factors he has overlooked. Su Hao rubs his head, closes his eyes, and lets his thoughts wander. Upon closer inspection, there are still many things I don't understand about the pinball space, such as its exact location in the universe, how it connects to this current body, and what the relationship is between the pinball space and me. The more he thinks, the further his thoughts wander. Once he starts contemplating, Su Hao finds it hard to stop. These questions have been lingering in his mind for a long time, yet he hasn't had much time to explore the secrets of the pinball space. Today, with this sudden discovery, all these doubts explode at once. Maybe after figuring out this issue, he'll be able to understand the relationship between consciousness and the body. And the so-called consciousness projection onto the body, using the body for thinking, is merely a surface-level phenomenon. Perhaps this involves various factors like carrier consciousness, information, logic, and more. These questions intertwine in Su Hao's mind, leaving him momentarily unable to clear his thoughts. Various guesses exist, but none can be confirmed and seem unreliable. Until darkness falls, he remains empty-handed, his mind already heavily clouded. Now having just evolved, it's better to wait until thoroughly adapting before thinking about these issues. With that thought, Su Hao lies down, gradually drifting off to sleep. 1 month later, Su Hao completely adapts to his new body. And he gains the 4 abilities of the prophet. The acquisition ability is as Su Hao imagined, capturing some kind of fluctuation released by touching objects. It can be electromagnetic waves, microwaves, or force fields. The stronger the fluctuation, the clearer the information obtained, somewhat similar to the electric current sensing of a platypus. For instance, he can touch a small round mouse and acquire information such as some fearful emotions, the talents of the mouse, or even the vitality of the mouse. Each piece of information obtained is different every time. The analytical ability involves processing and restoring the acquired information. For instance, after touching a person, Su Hao gains some life signals from that person, then analyzes and filters this information to restore the received signals. For instance, if the person is thinking about a stunning beauty, Su Hao might obtain corresponding information and upon restoration, understand who the person is constantly thinking about. Recording can save the corresponding information, similar to a pinball space, though there's a substantial difference. Simulation is akin to a conversion room inside the body, enabling the simulation of the subsequent development of events based on acquired information. In fact, any Duhua individual possesses these abilities, such as eyes gathering information, the brain analyzing and recording it, and imagining subsequent scenarios. The prophetic individual only intensifies this ability, making it an independent, unique skill. Undeniably powerful, Su Hao can perceive that his thinking speed has greatly improved. This difference is like that between a 90s old-fashioned computer and a modern supercomputer. This explains why, despite the same 9-year education, some individuals excel while others struggle to pass, not due to effort but due to inferior hardware, slower speed. For the first time, Su Hao experiences what it's like to be a genius. This time, he's a genuine genius, unlike the superficially acclaimed geniuses like Luo Xiaohui and Wu Shenwu, who are essentially ordinary individuals. Now glancing back at the previously perceived challenging academic knowledge, it seems incredibly simple. With a little contemplation, seemingly complex logic quickly falls into place. Is mathematics difficult? Previously, Su Hao might have hesitated and said difficult. But now he'd surely give a confident, almost haughty smile. Is it difficult? This is looking down on ordinary people. Thinking about this, Su Hao feels a bit sad. What's saddening is that he used to be such an ignorant and unenlightened person. God gave me a brain, but I didn't expect this brain to be not so good. The key is I never realized how inadequate this brain was before. What a sad realization. Without being a real genius, one can't even fathom how a genius perceives the world, or even understand that their own thinking is so muddled. Previously, Suhai never dared to admit he was a genius, but now he can finally stand tall and boldly tell everyone that he, Suhai, is indeed a genius. Suhai briskly flips through various books, quickly comprehending and absorbing the theories and logical thinking within, then weaving them together and applying them in various situations. He's so excited he's almost moved to tears. Looking back at my previous lives, it's really hard to sum it up. Apart from effort, I had nothing. Suhai couldn't help but sigh. Luckily, I still have effort. Otherwise, even the pinball space wouldn't be able to save an ordinary person like me. At that moment, Yashin came to find Suhai. After Suhai opened the door for Yashin, Yashin awkwardly spoke. Boss Wei, my 3 wives are 6 months pregnant and will give birth soon. I want to bring them to Temple Forest City and ask for your opinion. After calculating the time, Suhai was indeed surprised. Wouldn't it be better for you to directly go back to Huxiang City to take care of them? Why bring them here? Yashin chuckled. Boss Wei, it's just for your peace of mind. I don't trust anyone else much. If they encounter any unsolvable issues, Boss Wei can help take care of it. Also, taking care of 3 is still taking care. Bringing them here can also help with some miscellaneous tasks for you. As for Huxiang with Taini there, I'm very reassured. Taini is now a level 7 Minshi and very few can threaten her. Yashin is entirely at ease. Suhai smiled. I think you're just trying to avoid Taini, aren't you? Yashin coughed. Boss Wei, you're wise, that's part of it. Thinking about it, Suhai realized it might not be a good idea to have these 3 special children born outside. Who knows if there might be any issues during the birth of these first-generation innately sacred individuals. So Suhai nodded and said, then bring them all here. Then Suhai couldn't contain his creativity. Suddenly he came up with an idea. He immediately took Yashin outside, saying, Yashin, when you bring your pregnant wives, you can't just let them walk slowly. Come here, let Boss Wei teach you how to make a luxury airliner, so you can comfortably transport a bunch of people back and forth. Yashin had a big question mark over his head. Airliner. The Yashin branded aircraft successfully completed its test flight. Just 2 days later, Yashin brought his 3 charming wives to Suhai's laboratory. They were Shadow King Nana, Metamorphic King Norin, and Shadow King Rose. Suhai was amazed. This Shadow King Rose was once a subordinate of the Tianxia Gang Steel Armor King Abby, imprisoned for 2 years, unexpectedly taken down by Yashin. Life's unpredictable. More importantly, these 3 king-level ladies were neatly managed by Yashin, showing no signs of mutual hostility or jealousy. It must be said that Yashin might not excel in managing teams, but he certainly has a way with managing wives. Upon meeting, the 3 king-level ladies were visibly pregnant, standing obediently behind Yashin, greeting Suhai together, paying respects to the god of Genesis, Wei God. Suhai was taken aback, unable to voice anything, holding his breath, struggling to respond. Forced a difficult smile, he nodded up. Read new chapters on no/v/e/elbin.com. After that, Suhai had nothing more to say. What could he say? What exactly did Yashin and Taini, those 2, do in Huaxiang City? Could the people in Huaxiang City truly regard him as a deity? Well, forget it, let them do whatever they want. It doesn't matter. Suhai directly entered his own laboratory, no longer stepping outside. Seeing Suhai enter the laboratory, the 3 ladies sighed with relief. Their calm and dignified faces suddenly fell, each reaching out and grabbing Yashin's arm or clothing. Shadow King Rose, sounding a bit panicked, whispered to Yashin, husband, let's leave quickly, I want to go back to the room. Nana and Norin nodded in agreement. Yashin, concerned, asked what, not feeling well? Rose shook her head, leaning in close to Yashin's ear, whispering softly, I don't know why, but I'm a bit scared of Wei God. Yashin turned to look at the other 2 wives, noticing the same expressions. Bewildered, he said, huh? Wei God is very nice. What's there to be afraid of? Hush, hush, hush. The 3 of them panicked, immediately pulling Yashin aside. Nana pinched Yashin hard, saying, husband, speak more softly. Yashin. In the following time, Suhai stayed in the pinball space, reading, absorbing knowledge from various disciplines, making the wisdom of his predecessors his own. Suhai now possessed a powerful brain, greatly enhancing his learning efficiency. However, Suhai discovered something. Learning efficiency isn't just about the hardware of the brain, it's also about the method of learning. In other words, it's related to a person's logical thinking when approaching problems. If we consider the brain as a computer, this kind of thinking logic can be seen as the software running on the computer. The efficiency of software running often relates to the framework and code of that software. A powerful thinking method can achieve a function in just a few lines of code, whereas an outdated thinking method might require a dozen pages of code, or more just to perform the same computation. That's the difference. Suhai underwent special thinking training in the Luozahui world, relatively advanced. With the acceleration of his thinking now, he constantly optimized his thinking while reading and learning, thus increasing his learning efficiency. As Suhai closed the last book in the mathematics subject category, the sound of a baby crying echoed in the experimental base. Soon Yashan's excited voice came from outside. Boss Wei, Boss Wei. Nana has given birth to a daughter. I have another daughter. Suhai opened the laboratory door, walking out and congratulating. Congratulations, Yashin. Another daughter for you. I now declare your mission accomplished. Great, excellent. Yashin burst into laughter, looking very happy about completing Boss Wei's mission. Haha. Boss Wei, I haven't been this excited for so long, oh. Seeing Yashin suddenly stunned, Suhai asked Yashin, what's wrong? Yashin honestly replied, I also gave tasks to my 3 wives. I haven't told Nana that her task is completed. Upon hearing this, Yashin intended to go back. Suhai loudly commanded Yashin, stop right there. Never mention tasks again in the future, understood? Perplexed, Yashin didn't understand why Boss Wei was so serious, but immediately responded, okay, Boss Wei, I won't bring it up again. Satisfied, Suhai said, let's go see your daughter. Soon, Suha held the wrinkled baby in his arms, examined her carefully, then asked Yashin, who was comforting Nana, "Have you thought of a name for this little one?" Yashin said, "Not yet, I was thinking to ask Boss Wei to give her a name." Suha nodded, thought for a moment, and said, "Let's call her Yinger." Yashan's eyes lit up, this name struck a chord with him, immediately thanking, "Thank you, Boss Wei. She'll be called Yinger from now on." After handing the baby back to the midwife by his side, Suha smiled and said, "Let's not disturb Nana's rest for now. I'll leave first. Yashin, stay here with them." Saying so, Suha left the room, returning to the laboratory, ensuring the baby was healthy. His concern was if any special conditions might arise as the special baby was born, but now everything seemed normal. When he held the baby earlier, Suha didn't use his abilities to probe the baby's information. The child was too young, and it wasn't necessary to rush. In a year or two, when the child completely mature, it would be better to observe and explore. Over the next month, Yashan's third and fourth children were born. The third was a boy named Heli, and the fourth was a girl named Psyche. From then on, Yashin became a dedicated full-time dad, tending to these three children all day. And Suha continued rapidly absorbing various knowledge. During the Luo Zhahui era, he actually had limited time for studying, and his research on subjects like mathematics and physics was far from deep. Because during that time, he almost devoted all his time to studying computer and system-related knowledge, which allowed Little Light to build smoothly, providing unimaginable assistance for the future world studies and research. 2 years later, Suha is 24 years old. You can see three little ones playing in the courtyard of the experimental base, running around confidently, not stumbling like typical 2-year-old children. Yashin is lying on a lounge chair, watching his children play, his brow furrowed, fearing they might bump into something. But watching them all day is not a solution either. Yashin considered handing over the three children to their mothers to take care of. Unexpectedly, his three wives used their Temple Forest Society busy schedule as an excuse and refused Yashan's proposal. About a year and a half ago, they all insisted on returning to Huaxiang City for work, leaving the three little ones for Yashin to take care of himself, which left Yashin dumbfounded. It's not what he imagined. In the end, he had to follow Boss Wei's suggestion and hired 2 nannies to help. On this day, Suha walked out of the laboratory and enticed the three little ones with some candy, saying, "You know, Helizaiki, come and see what Uncle Wei has prepared for you." As soon as they heard Suha calling, they dropped their toys and rushed to Suha Uncle Wei. About to snatch the candies from Suha's hand, they were halted by Suha's swift move. Getting candies is simple, just stand nicely. The three kids, smart enough to understand Wei's temperament, immediately stood in place. Suha further instructed, "Put out your hands." 6 little chubby hands reached out to Suha. With a smile, he praised, "Very good." Suha placed a candy in Yunna's right hand, then held her left hand, slowly infusing some vital energy into her body, bypassing critical areas like the brain, fanning the torso part, and entering the pinball space, then slowly retracting the vital energy. After finishing, he said to Yunna, "All right, go and play." Yunna first thanked, "Thank you, Uncle Wei," then happily ran to Yashin to show off her candy. The other 2 kids, full of eagerness, gazed at Suha with clear eyes. Suha smiled inwardly. It's time to awaken their innate abilities and talents. I was not in a hurry to directly tap into the talents of these 3 little guys, but wanted to collect physical information, check if the runic genes of Yashin were successfully passed on to the next generation, and whether there would be any changes in the runic genes inherited by the next generation. It's not realistic to unearth the innate abilities of these 3 little ones right now. They're still too young and unable to grasp elite vitality at all, nor do they have the consciousness to control their vitality. Waiting another 10 years will be about right. Suha returned to the laboratory, entered the pinball space, and began to examine the physical information of the 3 little ones. Soon, Suha had the results. All 3 little ones had a rotation rune in their bodies, but it was somewhat incomplete. However, it's not a big problem, just needs manual connection to obtain a complete rune. Although it's the result of the combination of genes from both parents, when I modified the genes of Yashin, I deliberately added a gene program that could automatically implant runic genes into the female's genes during the zygote stage, ensuring that every child born from Yashin would have a complete rune. All newest chapters on no/belby/n/com. Unfortunately, these 3 little ones don't have this program. The runic genes their descendants obtain are probably incomplete, which is akin to bloodline loss. Of course, if they can find someone with the same runic genes to combine with, it's highly probable to generate complete runes. Regarding this, Suha could only shake her head helplessly, regretting, so wanting to pass on runic genes from generation to generation is not realistic. With each passing generation, the probability of expressing this gene will become smaller. Therefore, Suha lost interest in the transmission of runic genes. The persistent transmission of this gene doesn't seem to hold much significance for Suha in contemplating bloodline inheritance. So for Suha, this technology serves as a means to engrave runes for himself in the future, and additionally, through this technology, accumulate wealth. Who wouldn't be enticed by gaining special powers with just one injection? After carefully studying the genes and runes of the 3 little ones, Suha wrote a book for these 3 little ones, called Rotating Mind Method, specifically to help them train their vitality and activate the runes within them. By the time they reach around 10 years old, they'll be able to activate their innate powers. A few days later, Suho found Yashin and handed over the booklet saying, "Yashin, let them slowly practice this rotating mind method after they turn 6. There will be surprises." Yashin took it blankly, casually flipped through it, and found that the booklet was divided into 2 parts. The vitality training part inside had already been taught by Veer, but what about the later incantations and visualizations? Yashin didn't understand, simply nodding, "Okay, Boss Wei." Yashin added, "Boss Wei, as you said, we've marked out a large area in the wilderness and planted boundary trees around the periphery." Suha explained so fast. Yashin smiled. The innovative century, this epic project, has now become the goal of everyone in the Temple Forest Association. From top to bottom, everyone has sparked endless enthusiasm. For everyone, it's like a moment of creating a great miracle. Everyone involved will join the Veer sect, be outstanding contributors, and might even be granted the special title of God recorded in history. According to the current trend, no one can stop the implementation of the innovative century project. Now in the territory of Huxiang City, cities big and small have all started to establish academies, mandating enrollment for children of appropriate age. As long as our beast area operates smoothly, setting up an exotic people class within the academy is almost finalized. Suha praised Yashin. Well done. Yashin immediately said, it's not much to do with me, it's mainly due to Boss Wee's genius-like vision that stunned everyone when they heard about this grand plan. You have no idea about the expressions of the people in the Temple Forest Association upon hearing this grand plan, TSK. It's like discovering they're actually women. With Yashan's words lifting Suha's spirits, he immediately took Yashan's arm and said, come, let's go for a stroll in the area for exotic beasts. After instructing the nanny to take care of the three little ones, Suha and Yashin flew into the sky. Side by side, overlooking the vast land, they were filled with great ambition for a moment. Facing the strong wind, Suha shouted to Yashin, in the future, all this land will be yours. Wherever you want to go, no one can stop you. A real man should be like this, free in body and soul. However, Yashin couldn't hear anything, just shouting into the wind, okay, boss way. Suha burst into laughter. Let's go, Yashin, let's compare who can fly faster. After saying that, he gestured to Yashin, who finally understood and laughed wildly, saying, good. Boss way, let's compare. Afterward, both of them almost simultaneously erupted with immense energy at their feet, propelling them forward. Their speed instantly broke the sound barrier, creating a booming sound that echoed far and wide. Soon, Suha began various high-difficulty stunts in the high altitude, greatly intimidating Yashin. Quickly, Yashin followed suit, clumsily attempting various flying maneuvers like boss way. Surprisingly, Yashan's learning speed was quite fast, quickly mastering the techniques and flying in a similar manner. Having fun while flying, a few hours later, the two arrived at the exotic beast area drawn by Yashin. The exotic beast area was approximately as large as Hainan Island, surrounded by patches of boundary trees, spanning about a kilometer in width. After flying around the exotic beast area, Suha nodded and said, not bad. Slowing down, Suha said, Yashin, this place can be used as an experimental site, but as the future exotic beast area, it's not enough yet. Yashin was surprised, not enough. Suha nodded, the range is too small. Yashin widened his eyes, this is small. We can hardly see the end when flying in the sky. Suha smiled, Yashin, broaden your horizons. What can you achieve with this small area? You need to at least enlarge it 100 times for me. Yashin flew unsteadily, shocked 100 times. He doubted he had misheard. Suha added, Yashin, what we want isn't just a small circle but a vast ecosystem. Not only expand your range by 100 times, continue planting boundary trees, don't stop until it's a boundary belt tens of thousands of meters wide. If there's still energy left, keep expanding outward. Yashin opened his mouth, unable to utter a word. Today, Boss Wee's words once again reshaped his understanding. Big. He finally understood the meaning of Boss Wee's bigger is better from before. It seemed he had been too conservative. Suha continued, Yashin, broaden your mind, don't be confined by what your eyes see. We want the whole world, do you understand? The world is much bigger than you imagine. I know that such a vast area will definitely come with many difficulties, but so what? Overcome each and every difficulty bit by bit. You have plenty of time, take it slowly. Moreover, this project isn't just for 100 or 200 years, but an exotic beast area used by people for generations and generations. We are the pioneers, and the scale of the pioneers directly determines the layout of the future world. So, Yashin, it needs to be large. Make it larger and even larger. Understand? Yashin was pumped by Suha's words, shouting, understood, boss way. Big it is. Suha also shouted, exactly. It's all about being big. 100 times I mentioned earlier was too conservative. Keep expanding. Okay, boss way. Since having a new large-scale experimental site, Suha divided each day into two parts. He would stay in the pinball space in the morning, studying and reading, and spend the afternoons wildly modifying the genes of various animals. In the evening, he'd return to the pinball space to study and read again. His life was extremely regimented. The purpose of gene modification was to make them evolve into various sequence mutant beasts while implanting the corresponding attacking segment of gene toxin 2 into their bodies, allowing this segment to be passed down from generation to generation. After reaching a certain quantity, he started releasing them into the enclosed experimental zone for beast mutant creatures. Later, Suha found the efficiency too low, so he forcefully bred these genetically modified beast mutant creatures that had Springya injected into them. After breeding to a certain quantity, they were released again. Not only that, Suha was concerned that the beast mutant creatures he had labored to create might foolishly enter the enclosed zone to die, so he researched a type of repelling thicket plant, filling the enclosed area directly with pungent, unpleasant odor that made any nearby creatures automatically stay away. He steadily improved this step by step, actively solving problems encountered, and the project made significant progress. Suha continued this life for 2 years. He was 26 years old. With his updated brain, his learning progress was rapid, absorbing a vast amount of knowledge like a sponge. This gave him a deeper understanding of this world and the universe, mastering more and superior thinking structures, gradually changing the nature of his own thinking, stepping firmly towards being a true genius. The mutant creature modification project was also nearing its end, only needing another 6 months of observation before allowing various levels of beast mutant creatures to breed on their own completely. It was currently winter, with heavy snow blanketing the ground. Yashin wore a thick black coat, appearing mature, but upon seeing Suha, his temperament instantly changed, showing a joyful face, and said, Boss Way, the progress in the mutant creature zone has been smooth so far. We've employed 3 metamorphic kings to observe the movements of the beast mutant creatures in real time. We found that the beast mutant creatures have all marked their territories, and are not likely to step out of those boundaries easily. Then Yashin marveled, just as Boss Way guessed, higher level beast mutant creatures have occupied the central area, while the further outward we go, the lower the level of the beast mutant creatures. As long as those high-level beast mutant creatures have sufficient food, they won't easily venture to the outskirts, providing space for the lower-level creatures to survive. After the lower-level creatures fail to cross the boundary zone, they won't try again. This is what you call the ecology of the mutant creature zone, right? It seems this experimental zone is indeed too small. Suhao, seeing 3 4-year-olds who had finally built a snowman, bent down, grabbed a handful of snow, rolled it into a snowball, and casually threw it, bursting the snowman they had built. This directly caused the 3 kids to cry out in frustration, tears nearly streaming down their faces. After managing to calm their emotions, they moved away from Suhao and began rebuilding the snowman. Meanwhile, Suhao laughed happily, then turned to Yashin and said, "We still need to observe for another 10 years. It would be best to establish an observation tower outside the mutant creature zone and arrange personnel to monitor at all times. The mutant creature zone is now gradually on the right track, so let's hope there won't be any major issues." Yashin nodded and said, "Understood, Bossway." Also, many of the various beast mutant creatures previously released were not adapted to the new environment and have almost gone extinct by now. The ones left are those with better survival abilities, and they have at least bred within the mutant creature zone. As long as we continue to try to release various types of beast mutant creatures and select them, we can form a stable ecosystem. Suhao nodded and asked, "Is there enough food for the beast mutant creatures?" Yashin said initially it wasn't enough, but after continuously releasing common large herbivores, it can meet the demand. Now a mountain goat with excellent breeding capabilities has become the main food source for numerous beast mutant creatures. Later we should be able to find more suitable large beasts. Things have developed to a relatively stable stage, no longer requiring Suhao's excessive attention. The Temple Forest Association can operate autonomously. Suhao thought for a moment and said, "Let's open a mutant experimental class after next spring. For 10-year-old children, there will be 200 slots available across 4 classes. Subsequently, every year, we'll enroll 200 slots. Depending on the situation, we can expand the enrollment, strictly controlling the quantity to allow the mutant creature zone to achieve a benign development." Yashan's eyes lit up, waiting for this sentence for a long time, and immediately exclaimed, "All right, Bossway." Suhao continued, "Yashan set the rules before starting the classes. Temporarily hunting or killing same level or lower level beast mutant creatures is not allowed. The mutant creature zone is for evolution, not a place for indulging in slaughter. If they don't accept it, they won't be allowed to become mutant students. If they become students and violate the rules, their mutant abilities will be revoked." For Suhao, if someone couldn't even defeat creatures at the same level and was in life-threatening danger, they wouldn't qualify to evolve into higher-level mutants. If they died, so be it, no remorse. Anything done carries some risk. Yashin was astonished. Mutant abilities can be revoked. By killing them directly. Suhao chuckled. Of course they can be revoked. I've already researched a special type of small round rodent that can produce a particular liquid. As long as a sufficient amount of this liquid is injected into a mutant's body, it can revoke all of their mutant abilities, reverting them to ordinary people. Yashin took in a sharp breath, feeling a chill down his spine. This kind of small rodent. Suhao pointed casually. "You've seen it before. It's that kind with a tuft of red hair on its head over there." Yashin, taking a look, involuntarily took 2 steps back. Suhao continued, "I call this type of rodent a regression mouse, and the liquid it secretes is called regression liquid. This will now be managed by the highest level of the Temple Forest Association. Do not let people know that the regression liquid comes from the regression mouse, and those who rear the regression mouse should not know this liquid is called the regression liquid. When the regression liquid appears in front of people, it should undergo color and taste alterations. Do you understand, Yashin?" Yashin deeply breathed in the cold air. "Understood, Bossway." Internally, Yashin marveled. Bossway is too powerful. He couldn't imagine anything that Bossway couldn't achieve. Everything Bossway did exceeded his understanding. No, not just his, exceeded the understanding of everyone in the Temple Forest Association. So bestowing upon Bossway the title of a god isn't too excessive. As long as the Innovation Century project succeeds, Bossway's divine status as the god of creation will undoubtedly be on par with the highest deity, great god Juhu of the Juhu people. Suhao then said, "Yashin, have you made contact with the people from the other 6 major cities?" Yashin smiled. "We're in contact. There's a fellow there who proposed compiling what we're doing into various children's rhymes and stories, then extensively spreading them to the other 6 major cities. It's starting to show some effect. Many people are now coming from distant places. If we continue spreading for some more time, the people in the 6 cities will surely be half believing, half doubting. At that point, when we send someone to make contact, it will yield twice the result with half the effort." Suhao raised an eyebrow. "That fellow is really talented, huh?" Suhao casually grabbed another snowball, and once again demolished the lopsided snowmen of the 3 little ones. Then these 3 little ones became unhappy, lying on the ground, rolling and throwing a tantrum, demanding that Uncle Wei restore their snowman. Yingner, being the second eldest, was somewhat timid, whereas the youngest hiker had the most courage and the fiercest demeanor. He ran angrily to Yashin and complained, "Dad, look at Uncle Wei, he ruined our snowman." Yashin scratched his head, nodding in agreement. "Yeah, Dad saw it." Yingner and Helly looked at their father in shock from a distance. "This was it. Weren't you supposed to stand up for your own kids?" All newest chapters on no/velby/n/com. Unexpectedly, Yashin said, "You 3 go and make more snowmen for Uncle Wei to smash." Suhao, Yingner, Helly hiker. The Temple Forest Association expanded rapidly. A large area on the map came under the management of the Temple Forest Association, and all dissent and resistance gradually vanished. The power of people uniting for a common goal was beyond imagination. With the continuous expansion of the Temple Forest Association, this world underwent tremendous changes. Yet, Suhao, the one orchestrating everything, did not personally involve himself in these events. After ensuring that the overall direction did not deviate, he allowed things to evolve on their own. How things would ultimately turn out, Suhao had no clue in his heart, only knowing that it was bound to deviate from what he expected. But he didn't care. Reaching this stage was already a form of giving back to this world. Whether they could seize the opportunity to completely change the fate of the Juhu people and the mutants was up to them. Suhao returned to the pinball space, waving his hand, causing the study and living room to vanish, revealing the entirety of the pinball space within Suhao's consciousness.